I know I've tackled this in my bigger Trench Crusade lore video, but I think it's a good idea to do a little refresher and discuss certain points when it comes to the timeline of Trench Crusade. And we start in 1099. The First Crusade captures Jerusalem. The Knight Templars commit the act of ultimate heresy. The gates of hell appears on earth, and Jerusalem is destroyed in the cataclysm. And so the Trench Crusades really start proper. In this world, we see King Philip doesn't get to extort the papacy and the Knight Templars of their money, but all those accusations that would have come if it followed the normal course of history, oh, they kinda seem proven right, don't they? We move on now to 1101, the year of 3 battles. Heretics, reinforced by the armies of the Third Circle of Hell, conquer all of the Levant. Nothing strange here, it makes sense that the demons would go for the whole of the Levant. 1106, Kobar becomes the first tyrant of the 66. 1109, the Great Sultanate of the Invincible Iron Wall of the Two Horns that pierce the sky, also known as
السلطنة العظمى من السور الحديدي المنيع ذو القرنين الذي يخترق السماء.
That's a mouthful, isn't it? Well, it gets formed. In the coming decades, it unifies the Islamic nations. The Great Iron Wall of Iskandar re-emerges and is fortified against the heretics. Now, the Great Iron Wall of Iskandar might be a reference to one of two things. First of all, the Gates of Alexander, also known as the Caspian Gates, which are several mountain passes in eastern Anatolia, the Caucasus, and Persia, separating the Greco-Roman world from the Persian world. They are often imagined as an actual fortification or as a symbolic boundary separating the civilized from the uncivilized world. But it might also refer to the Great Wall of Gorgan, which is a Sasanian-era defense system located near modern Gorgan in the Golestan province of northeastern Iran. Funnily enough, this is one of those several Caspian gates at the eastern part of a region known in antiquity as Hyrcania. Sometimes the Great Wall of Gorgan is also known as the Red Snake in Turkmen because of the color of its bricks, but in Persian it has some interesting names. Alexander Barrier or Alexander's Wall, because many Muslims believe that Alexander the Great went through there to go to the Caspian Gates on his hasty march to Hyrcania. It's also known as Firuz Barrier or Piruz Barrier and is officially referred to as Gorgan Defense Wall. So this can be either several gates or it might just be the Great Wall of Gorgan, and I think it's a reference to that one. In 1170, the legendary 17 Martyrs travel to the domains of hell to convert the heretics. They are captured, tortured, and kept in a state of dying to this day inside white-hot brazen bulls. Sounds like a classical tale of missionaries going to change the world and the world not wanting to be changed. In this case, hell. Which, yeah, it makes sense. I don't think there is a reason to touch upon the method on which they are tortured, the brazen bull, because I think everybody has an idea of it. If not its invention and so on, at least what it does and what it is. In 1165, the Old Man in the Mountain and his Hashashins defend the mountain fortress of Alamut. Reportedly, the castle stands to this day despite being sieged for hundreds of years. Now, there's a huge history lesson that you can give on the Hashashins and so on. What you really need to know is that they're assassins, they're Muslims of the Nizari Ismaili, which is the second greatest or largest branch of Shia Islam after the Twelvers. And that's really about it without turning this into a 10-hour video about Islams and the Crusades and so on. 1215 to 1306, the War of Three Calvinism. The church is split and fights a fierce internal conflict. Heretic domains extend as the faithful fight against each other. Millions perish by sword and fire. I think there is no reason to deny that this is clearly a reference to all the church infighting that has always existed and will probably always exist. 1429. Living Saint John of Arc drives the Black Grail from mainland Europe. I guess you can do that once you don't have a 100-year war to fight in. 1477, the city of Argos is taken by God, and it is no more. Now, Argos is an interesting place because in mythology, in Greek mythology, the city of Argos was believed to be the birthplace of the mythological character Perseus. So that's pretty interesting, but what's more interesting is the whole ecclesiastical history of the city. Because after Christianity became established in Argos, the first bishop documented in extended written records in Gentilicium, who in 44-8 AD took part in the synod called by Archbishop Flavian of Constantinople that deposed Eutiachus from his priestly office and excommunicated him. Many of the bishops from this city would go on to the Council of Constantinople in 879 and also in the Third Council of Constantinople in 680. From a historical point of view, this is a pretty interesting city. It went from the classical era to experimenting with democracy, then had a stint under Roman and Byzantine rule, followed by Crusader and Ottoman rule. So we can see clearly that this city has a vast history, both mythological and ecclesiastical, and real life history as well. In 1503, war prophet Angelos, guided by Saint Eligius, discovers the formula of orichalcum steel. Though extremely costly to produce, the metal proves to be effective against all missile weapons and is still used to this day. Orichalcum is a really interesting thing once you look at it. It has technically two names, orichalcum, mountain copper in Greek, or aurichalcum, gold copper in Roman, as you can pretty much expect. Orichalcum looked pretty much like gold, and according to Plato, it was only second in value to gold. Thanks to its color, it was hard to distinguish between orichalcum and real gold. Old Roman coins used to be made in this and not gold, which is an interesting perspective into things. The process of making it is long gone, so it's interesting to see a nod to that in Trench Crusade. 1545. Antioch destroyed utterly by a mysterious infernal weapon. Now, Antioch is an important place for Christians. It was known as the cradle of Christianity because of its longevity and the pivotal role it played in the emergence of early Christianity. It was also one of the cities of the Pentarchy. Now, if you don't know, the Pentarchy is a model of church organization formulated by Emperor Justinian I of the Roman Empire, of course, and in this model the church is governed by 5 heads, or patriarchs if you will. Patriarchs that represent the 5 major episcopal sees, which include Rome, Constantinople, Alexandria, Antioch, and Jerusalem. We can pretty much see how Jerusalem's out of the picture. And now for my favorite part, 1573. The Sacred Order of the Dragon halts the heretic advance after the destruction of Byzantium. Word spreads of millions of heretics impaled in the hills of Wallachia. Now, the Order of the Dragon is an interesting thing. It was founded by Sigismund of Luxembourg in 1408, who was the king of Hungary and Croatia and would later on go to become the Roman Emperor. The whole order was basically a crusading knight order, if you want to call it that, but the idea is that it had an important purpose. The aim was to fight the Ottoman Empire and to protect and defend Hungarian monarchy from foreign and domestic enemies. Oh yeah, and the Catholic Church, if I forgot about that. But what's interesting is that the order didn't only have Catholic or Hungarian members, because it also included foreigners and non-Catholic members, such as Stefan Lazaveric of Serbia and Vlad Dracul, the father of Vlad Tzepes, Vlad the Impaler. Now, this whole impaling heretics in Trench Crusade can't be done by Vlad Tzepes. It's historically impossible, he was way dead by then. So we have to look a little bit further, if you will, and that is the grandson of Vlad Tzepes, Alexandru II Mircea. The last one's a little bit weird for me, but whatever. who was part of the Draculaesh family, and compared to Kylo Ren and Darth Vader, we can see that the grandson is really pulling for his grandfather, making him proud. In 1595, the walls of New Antioch are completed. In 1666, the Year of Six Woes, in a surprise raid, the newly created heretic fleet captures Gibraltar. The sea fortress becomes the heretic base of operation against Europe. Forces of Hell gain access to the Atlantic. 1670, due to the constant coastal raids by the heretic fleet, the Crown of England begins the construction of the fortress of the White Cliffs of Dover. Historically, I don't know much about Dover, but there is an Iron Age hill fort that has been discovered there, so that's pretty cool. And the Romans did use to occupy it and even built a port there. A lighthouse still survives from that day. So this might be the reason why some British people would choose this. 1703. Against all odds, a small force of Hebrew knights striking from their secret fortress destroyed the Templar stronghold at Acre. Acre, of course, an important city during the Crusades, but it's interesting this whole idea of Hebrew knights. Knights are a very European thing, a very Christian thing. Now, we might consider this to be more of Hebrews that converted to Christianity, which would make sense in this case, or I think it's very likely this is more of a reference to David's mighty warriors, who are a group of 37 men in the Hebrew Bible who fought with King David. And the connection makes sense in a way because you have a small group of Hebrew knights that destroyed the Templar stronghold at Acre, and all 37 men of David have pretty great feats, killing lions, defeating multiple enemies, yada yada, you understand what I mean. Or another possibility, it's they're European Jews that decided to take control of being knights and just started their own thing. Also a possibility. In 1805, heretic fleet under the command of heretic High Captain Ranga defeats the fleet of England in the Battle of the Bloody Cliffs. Admiral Nelson is slain in combat. Now this one is interesting because Vice Admiral Horatio Nelson, first Viscount Nelson and first Duke of Bronte, did die in 1805. He was a renowned admiral that brought many victories to the British during the French Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars. He was also very good at his job, being an inspirational leader who had a great grasp of strategy and unconventional tactics. 1866. In the utmost secrecy, heretic scientists aided by the demon Marabas construct the first modern submarine, and from here all of humanity is lost. 1870. Launched from Gibraltar, the heretic submarine fleet extracts a heavy toll on the merchant navies. Widespread famine ensures that one makes sense. 1872, heretic forces stormed the city of Rijeka, or Rijeka, I guess. I have been corrected on the pronunciation of this Croatian name, but I didn't look it up, unfortunately. But the city itself is very known for, and how many productions it appears, from The Winds of War, the American TV series, to The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, and also you have many commercials that are filmed there from Telenet, Bridgestone, DM, Honda Civic, and the list could probably go further on, but we're not gonna waste time with that. 1894, the year of broken Trinity. The Death Commandos simultaneously assassinate the Supreme Pontiff, the High Prophetess Alelia. The faithful are thrown in turmoil. The heretic legions commanded by Hell's nobles of the Seventh Circle and a huge vanguard of tanks launch a lightning offensive in the Levant and Europe simultaneously. And this will create no man's land, I'm telling you. 1899, Church Space Program commences. Now I had a comment that complained about this. What do you mean the Church Space Program? And in a way I kinda see it, because going to space before you have planes is like inventing nuclear power before you have the wheel. But I think we'll get planes in Trench Crusade. Eventually. Hopefully before we get spaceships and space combat. 1907. The construction of the moving fortress of Britannia is completed. Yeah, I'm just gonna throw a coin and say this is a house moving castle reference. 1910. Battle of Cordoba. Bloody stalemate. Heretic artillery devastates the ancient city, but the heretic forces fail to gain access to the heartlands of Hispania. Cordoba is an interesting thing because there have been many sieges happening there, and all of them have been bloody. Nice to see that things don't really change for that place. And finally, 1914, the present day. Both sides are preparing for major offensive operations. In the huge swaths of no man's land, furious skirmishes and raids increase in intensity and tempo as the faithful and the heretic vie for information, powerful relics, and securing strategically important positions. And so we reach the Great War, the war to end all wars. And in Trench Crusade's case, really, that's no metaphor, that's the truth. It's great to see how much historical knowledge has went into creating the timeline, just the timeline of Trench Crusade, and how it really creates something very interesting out of it, and how it creates this dark, grim world where God is the only salvation, and, well, the other option is demons and the Black Grail, in case Nurgle was too fluffy and cutesy for you. Nevertheless, if you reach this point in the video, please like, comment, subscribe. It helps the channel grow. Nevertheless, I'll see you in the next one. Arrivederci.